On you.
Whenever.
Okay. All right, everybody, welcome back to Soul of the Skull. We're actually streaming this one last week. It's Easter today for you guys, but it's not for us. Today it's April 2nd. So, not live streamed this time. We're sorry we couldn't do that. But today we are going to be discussing the NFL draft, and then at the very end, we're going to have a fun competitive game. So, we're going to be starting off by talking about the Vikings' first two picks. So the Vikings have their round 1 pick at 23 and their round 3 pick at 87. And so we're going to be talking about who we think the Vikings should take at each of those picks. So if you guys want to take it away, or I can start too.
Well, just so everyone knows, the Vikings have 5 picks in this draft. They have the first, as Sam said, at pick 23, the third round pick at 87, and they have a 4th round pick 119, a 5th round pick 158, and then a 6th round pick 211. Mm-hmm. So, and we'll just be discussing the 1st and 3rd round picks really today here. So
if I can guarantee you anything, it's that they will not be making 5 draft selections. There will definitely be trades. But I think we'd be best starting off right now before we get into specific players. I think we should talk about the benefits of pick 23. Should we trade up? Should we trade back? I think you guys think we should look at that first.
Yeah, so I actually have a mock draft pulled up here from Kyle Stackpole. Has us staying at 23 and selecting cornerback Deonte Banks from Maryland. What do you guys think about Deonte Banks getting selected at the 23 pick?
I like, sorry, you can start actually if you want.
Well, I do believe we need a good defensive guy there, and cornerback, right, this position, corner. I do believe we do need a good cornerback at 6 foot, 197 pounds. I think he'd be a decent fit, and his 40-yard dash, 4.35. It's not, I don't know how it's compared to other cornerbacks in this year's draft, but I'd say that's pretty fast. And yeah, I think he'd be a good fit, but depends on if we trade him or not. But if he's there and we have the 23rd pick, I believe that'd be a good selection for the Vikings to make.
All right, so in 2022, Deonte Banks had a PFF grade of 72. That's pretty good. Don't judge it based on your test scores, where 72 doesn't look very good. PFF often doesn't have high numbers. He played in 12 games. He had 680 defensive snaps, 384 in coverage. I get it. I was confused. He allowed 26 receptions on 60 targets, 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, and had 1 interception. He allowed a passer rating of 71.4 when thrown at. In 2021, it was 69.8. In 2020, 65.6. So he has historically, in his career with Maryland, been very good at that. He often, I'm looking at his snaps by alignment. It seems here he plays outside, it looks to me. He can line up in different places, but for the most part, he had 618 snaps last year outside out of, what I say earlier, how many defensive snaps? 680 were in total. Also, I believe somewhere they have a write-up on him. So we're going to read his write-up. Here we go. So, this for Deonte Banks. According to the PFF, they're right. Where he wins, mirror ability. Deonte Banks is sticky without needing to use his size. That is a rarity for a 200-plus-pound corner, and it's scary to think what he could become once he learns to use that size advantage consistently. He has the athletic skill set and tackling ability to wear many hats in a defense. His best role may even be a L'Jarius Sneed-esque big slot at the next level. And it says he can improve in press technique, whether it's stopping his feet, getting overly anxious, or being too comfortable with space between him and the defender. Banks has a good deal that needs to be cleaned up in his press technique. That seems pretty common. I mean, you'll see that often. Not every first round, or not just first round. All rookie corners are going to be like that. You got to work something with them. They're going to be anxious. They're going to be trying hard. obviously, because they're trying to impress, but that's just something that comes with time, I think. It sounds to me here like he's a really good man corner. In fact, here it says, in a class full of super freaks at corner, he may even be the most impressive. 4.35 40 seems like my kind of a guy. I personally still like a receiver in the first round, but if we have to look at the defensive side of the ball, Deonte Banks is definitely one of the top players I'll be looking at, barring a slide from someone else.
Another stat that will not show up on there is that he had one missed tackle in all of 2022, and that's what we need at corner. Right now, our tacklers at corner, I mean, they're all right, but let's be honest, Patrick Peterson and Cam Dantzler missed a lot of tackles last year. We need a guy that's consistent, a guy that's just going to be able to be efficient in the run game as well, and that's exactly what he does. He's got good top-end speed to stay in phase up to the boundary, and he's great length to play man coverage, according to CBS. His draft scouting report, he had a rating of 86.97, which coincides with a long-term starter. I mean, he's a big physical corner. He's great in coverage. I think he'd be an excellent addition to any team.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Like you said, tackling. I know this isn't the same position, but for sure linebacker-wise, really the whole defense. But we especially noticed it with the linebackers, Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks. They just had so many tackling problems. They couldn't keep up. To me, he seems like a sticky guy. Just like that write-up I said earlier. He seems like a guy. He's going to work man-to-man. He knows how to tackle well. Seems like a Brian Flores fit, if you ask me. So with that being said, we are going to, I think, look into some other positions, other prospects, other stuff like that. Specifically, what I think they're going to go with, but not necessarily my favorite group of positions for the first round, and that is the wide receiver group. We are going to start with the Boston College wide receiver, Zay Flowers. Some mock drafts have him ahead of Minnesota, some have him still on the board. I don't necessarily think it'll last that long, but I guess you never know. We'll just have to see. If one of you guys wants to take it away first, that would be great.
Sure, I could take this one. I mean, he had really good physicals. He's got a 35.5-inch vertical, which, while not that impressive, it comes with a 4.42 speed. His strengths on here, super twitched up, gets to top gear in a flash, awesome route runner, supreme yards after the catch skills, and plays bigger than his size. He's 5'9", 189 pounds, so he's not a big dude, but he actually gained 15 pounds between his college season and going to the combine. So, I mean, he's a great route runner. He has really good hands, wins jump balls a lot of the time, small, quick. I mean, I think he'd be a really good slot receiver for us if we decided to draft him instead.
Yeah, he seems like something the Vikings need aside with Justin Jefferson, not an older player that's deteriorating for Adam Thielen in my eyes. But yeah, it says here he definitely seems to play very well. And a lot of the strengths I'm reading, the NFL.com from Travis Benjamin, he writes, routes are fast and maintain momentum through turns. His hands are average, but overall ball skills are very impressive. Tracks and catches deep balls with above average poise. I love the word poise. And he's very slippery as an open field runner. That just seems like a guy the Vikings need. A guy that can complement Justin Jefferson, run routes anywhere on the field, slippery in the open field. I love that. Seems like my kind of a dude as well.
So I've been kind of looking at this here. What do you think of Quentin Johnson if he slips the 23rd pick? So I've seen mixed reviews through multiple mock drafts here that some have him going at the 12th pick and some have him going around the 22nd, 23rd, 24th. His rating was a 91.15, his draft scout. He went 60 receptions for 1,069 yards, 17.8 yard average. He only had 6 touchdowns though. And it seems like and he has a 40.5-inch vertical. I don't see his 40-yard here, but he's 6'3", 208 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he seems like kind of the measurable wise, not very similar to Zay Flowers. I'm gonna look specifically at Zay Flowers' height and weight, that kind of stuff again.
He's 5'9", 182.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's him. And then Quentin Johnston, for comparison, is 6'3", 208. So he's a lot bigger of a dude than Zay Flowers. Overall, it's not necessarily. If you ask me, I prefer Zay Flowers in this spot. I just like how it sounds like he's very, very good at his ball skills, very good, like we already said, slippery in the open field. That seems like my kind of a dude. So I would prefer Zay Flowers in this spot over Quentin Johnston, bigger guy. But that's just me. I feel like Zay Flowers, with his skill set, would be a better complement to Justin Jefferson.
Quentin Johnson ran a 4.46.
So he's obviously more of an outside guy, not really a vertical threat, probably a medium route threat.
Yeah, well, we could almost use something like that. We got Justin Jefferson for the long ball. We kind of got T.J. Hawkinson for more of a shorter to mid. Do we want another kind of short to mid, or do we want another long threat?
I'd say we need a better deep threat, because Justin Jefferson, while he's, excellent with ball skills, he's not some blazing quick wide receiver. He's not a guy that's running a 4.32, a 4.34, or whatever. He's not a guy that's just gonna fly past defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're able to pick up on him, but his biggest strength is his ball skills. You go get the ball wherever it is. Another wide receiver I do want to talk about is Jordan Addison from USC. Draft scouting report, he had 90.3 rating, which it coincides with All-Pro. His strengths are sharp, sudden routes at all levels, good explosion while running routes and after the catch, catches everything, rock solid hands, and speedy type down the field. However, he's a really small catch radius. He's not a big dude. He's 5'11", 173. His 40 was slower than most. It was a 4.49. His vertical was shorter than most with 34 inches. So, I mean, he's not an incredible athlete, but he did put up decent stats this year. 59 receptions for 875 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, he's really, really great at the mid to short routes, and I think that's what we really need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was looking for his snaps by alignment, but I couldn't really find it as much for him. But yeah, I like Jordan Addison a lot. Like you said, 5'11", 173. He's taller. He's kind of like in between height-wise. He's in between Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers. Yeah, I don't know how much more there is to say. I think you summed it up pretty good. His NFL comp, according to NFL.com, is Tyler Lockett. I like the strengths Tyler Lockett has a lot. So I think if they could get a guy like him in this offense, I think that would work pretty well.
I agree with that, yeah.
And it says, actually, this doesn't really pertain to the Vikings, but actually I have two different things here. The first one, this pertains to me, because I love this term and I just said it. He can be a slippery runner after the catch. Just said that about Zay Flowers, now it says the exact same thing about Jordan Addison. But also, this doesn't necessarily pertain to the Vikings, but it's just kind of an interesting nugget here. He does have punt return experience in all 3 of his seasons. Even though more than likely the Vikings punt returner will be Brandon Powell, who they just signed over the past couple weeks. Just a little interesting nugget, even though it really doesn't affect anything at all here. And yeah, I think that gets those guys pretty good.
One thing I do want to point out is on this mock draft that we have, the Detroit Lions are projected to take Darnell Washington at pick 18, which Darnell Washington, if you guys have not seen any of his highlights, is a freak of nature. 6'7", 264 pounds, tight end. Sheer size makes him an additional inline blocker, big strong hands to make contested catches, improved as a blocker, and wide range to make receptions. I mean, when you're 6'7", it's pretty hard to throw a ball this guy can't catch. Yeah, he's not very explosive, and he was injured for most of the year. He still had 28 receptions for 454 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a 31-inch vertical, a 4.64 40, and he had 21 reps in the bench press, which led the tight ends group, I believe.
Yeah, and 6'7", 264 to run like a 4.64. That is pretty good for that. Someone
Very
that
impressive.
size, that is really good. And you look at his draft scouting report, 83.62, and it says like a long-term starter for him. Which, if he can stay healthy, I believe that could be true.
Yeah, he's really a great athlete.
Yeah. I don't have anything more to say on that, but there is a player, as I saw him scrolling, that I think we should touch on because it's a really interesting prospect. He comes from the state of Texas, and his name is Bijan Robinson. If you guys are familiar, he's a running back, but he's not truly just a running back. He appears to be a Swiss Army knife type of a player. I'll look up his snaps by alignment because I think that actually could be a really interesting tale here. But it seems like he can play a lot and he can do a lot of really interesting things. Now, I would not like drafting a running back in the first 4 rounds, I'll say, but he's a different case. So he's not necessarily just a running back. I'm just kind of repeating myself at this point.
I'm
so.
looking up his stats right now.
If anyone wants to take it, I'll just kind of say the same thing.
4.46, 40, 37-inch broad jump, 10'4". For 258 rushing attempts, he had 1,580 yards, 1,580, 6.1 average with 18 touchdowns.
He also had 314 yards in the air with another 2 touchdowns.
And
He's
he's
been really reliable throughout his whole career. He's got at least 700 yards all 3 years that he's played on the ground. So, yeah, really impressive dude.
yeah, he's got a 91.63 All-Pro rating. And his comparison is Saquon Barkley. And then, 5'11", 215. I think that'll speak for itself there. Good pass protector, too, it also says here. And then one of his weaknesses is short yardage situations here, so. But we also have, like, the Vikings were to choose him. We also got, like, C.J. Ham for that, and Madison, too.
Yeah, it definitely seems here he's very explosive. In the combine, in the 40, he had a 4.46 40, which is in the 85th percentile, 37-inch vertical, which is in the 82nd percentile, and he had a broad jump of 10 foot 4 inches, which is in the 80th percentile. So he seems to be a pretty explosive player. I'll see here, because he's such an interesting player, I'm going to go on NFL.com here. I'm going to find the write-up they have on him and read the strengths and weaknesses because he's interesting. So I want to see what they have to write about him. So on NFL.com, which is currently being pulled up right now, he has a total score of 96 according to them. Now, that's not necessarily the same as the metrics you guys have been using, but I do just want to point that one out there. It's pretty cool here. So this is from Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, one of their writers. His NFL comp is Josh Jacobs. These are his strengths. 3-down back with exceptional talent in all phases, owns a variety of footwork tools to alter pace, direction, and power. His feet are fast and fully connected with his vision for optimal results. He resets run track with sudden jump cuts against penetration. Sounds kind of like early career Dalvin Cook, if you ask me. Runs low to the ground and possesses rare contact balance. I like that. Balance as a running back. Definitely important. Ability to stack moves adds a lateral level of unpredictability to his carries. Pinballs off of angle strikes and can rip through leg tackles. I love that. He's got top end speed, it seems. His weakness is he might need to quicken operation time against speedy NFL defenses. Occasionally looks better to deal run lanes when he should be finishing. So that's more of a mental thing there. Needs to run with more decisive plant and go mentality, and he needs more consistent urgency in pass protection duties. But overall, with everything they're saying, seems like a really interesting prospect. If he's on the board at 23, I can guarantee Kwesi he'll think about it. he'll definitely be taking a look.
I believe this guy is going to be a real threat or asset in the threat to the Vikings, whatever asset to a team in the NFL. But I don't think the Vikings are in the situation where they need a guy like him. They have their running backs. I just think they have the kind of guys. I just don't think he's going to be the piece of the puzzle that'll work well for the Vikings here. I believe someone else is going to be that piece. But I do believe this guy will be a great running back in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm going to move on now. I'm looking at a different mock draft this time from, who was it? This time from Ryan Wilson, has the Vikings staying at 23 and taking quarterback Will Levis. I'm going to speak first on this one. I think that's a terrible idea. Will Levis absolutely bombed in his interviews, as we stated last week. Says on here that there's inconsistencies when he rolls to his left and concerns about his ability to layer the ball to all three levels. He's a big dude. He's 6'4", 229. I don't think he's dealt with a whole lot of injuries in his career. He threw 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this year with 2,400 passing yards. His strengths are great mobility relative to his size, elite arm strength, great size for the position, exposure to a pro-style offense, and tough will play through an injury, as I just stated. His weaknesses is that he gets stuck on his first read occasionally, which for the Vikings would not be good. Teams are going to be double, triple covering Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson is going to be the first read on almost every single play, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you get stuck on that, there's going to be a lot of interceptions thrown. That's where Kirk does really well. He sees the field really well. He had subpar production as a senior, did not elevate his team, and he needs to get through his full field reads quicker. It's something that Kirk Cousins does really well. He did not run the 40-yard dash at the combine. Honestly, I don't think that he's overly impressive. I think that he's an average college quarterback.
I got some stats here to interrupt you. For the 2,406 yards he was ranked 71st. For the 19 touchdowns, tied for 50th. Interceptions, tied for 91st. And his QBR was only 60.9. Now that's on a scale of 100, and he's ranked 59th. And he's projected to be a first-round pick. Or what? Maybe drop now, but I just don't see him being a good fit. I believe there's other quarterbacks and other things that we can pick up instead of him.
I believe I mentioned this one in last week's episode. I think I said, if you're willing to go in for a quarterback this year, go all in. The more you say it, the more I do doubt Will Levis. I have said over the past, how many now, I'm okay with it. I'm still okay with it, not thrilled, I guess. But I think if they're gonna move up, just do it. Go all in right now. If you're willing to put in the picks, if you're willing to gamble at all for your future quarterback, I think they should just do it right now. Go all in, go top 10 if you need, maybe top 5 if you need. Sure, you'd have to give up a lot, but if you're gonna do it, just do it. So
I got an interesting stat for you about Will Lewis. For his 2022 season, rushing, guess how many yards he had?
I'm going to say under 100.
Go negative 100. He had 72 attempts for negative 107 yards.
So
Negative-
getting sacked left and right.
Sacked a lot.
His average was negative 1.5 yards per rushing attempt.
So that's just
That's
saying he
tough.
gets sacked
And with
all the time.
with a struggling Vikings offensive line, that is just setting him up to fail.
Yeah. I just don't see him being a good fit for.
Does it say what his longest rush was?
24.
Oh boy, that's not what we want if we're going to draft a quarterback.
Like, look at the stats. 2021 season, he had 2,800 yards, and he dropped by 400 yards last season. It seems like he had a peak that junior year, and it's kind of slipping up this year.
He also did miss a couple of games this year due to injury. I will give him that as to why some of his stats might have been lower.
You got a point there, but the rushing for minus 107 really sours it for me.
Yeah. And another thing about this Kentucky offense, another thing that I will give to him on why his passing yards were so low, is that they're very run heavy. They like to get the ball to their really great running back, Christian Rodriguez. But yeah, I mean, you still have to, if you want to be an NFL quarterback, you have to throw for at least 3,000 yards, in my opinion. Because, I mean, you got guys like Patrick Mahomes throwing for almost 5,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2,400 is less than impressive. I see him having a Nathan Peterman career.
Wow, interesting one. Well, if you guys don't have anything to share on that, I've got an idea for next player. This is a pretty interesting one here. I'm going to start with these metrics. 290, 624, 768. In college, this player I'm about to mention played 298 snaps in 2020, 624 in 21, 768 in 2022. They had 1 missed tackle in 2020, none in 21, 3 in 22. We just talked about a player with very few missed tackles. The player I'm talking about right now is a Alabama labeled as safety, Brian Branch. He tends to move around a lot. Really interesting. He's labeled as a safety, but in 2022, he had 569 snaps out of the slot, 136 from the box, 26 deep, 14 corner, and 24 on the defensive line. Seems like a hybrid player. Maybe this is the type of player Brian Flores would really be looking into.
You know, I would say that we should take him, but our safety room is stacked right now. You know, we have Harrison Smith, Lewis C, and Cameron Bynum. I don't see us drafting a safety at all. We drafted a safety first round last year, and I really don't see Brian Branch slipping past the first round. He's a strong player. He's a big dude. He's really versatile. I just don't really see it. I wish that we had the opportunity to take him, but I don't think we will.
I get what you're saying from that standpoint, but to me, he's almost like Bijan Robinson. The Vikings don't need a running back, but Bijan Robinson isn't truly just a running back. Brian Branch isn't truly just a safety. Like I said earlier, actually I can calculate it out here in a minute here. He had 569 snaps from the slot, so he isn't just a safety. He can move around and play different positions. So if anyone has something to share, then I'm gonna look at some strengths and weaknesses, and we can share that in a minute.
So him here, they have Byron Branch we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking here, there's been mixed theories. I pulled up a few mock drafts here, and there's a lot of mixture of where he'll be drafted. Some have him up at like the 16th pick, and some of them have him down at the 30th pick. So there must be some underlying or uncertainty with him if he's fluctuating that much between mock drafts. So I just don't know anything really. I just don't know anything too much about defense whole up here, but that's just my take on it.
I understand that, but I mean, if we're being honest, outside of the top 10, a lot of players just move around a lot. So like, there are some you're gonna find like, well, Will Levis is an extreme example, but you're gonna find him probably picked 5th overall, and you're gonna find some mock drafts where he's not even in the first round. So I just think outside of the top 10, that's a valid point, but it doesn't always work just because the draft is it's just rolling the dice for every player. Unless maybe you're in like the top 5, then it's kind of more set. But outside of that, players move around so much. To me, that doesn't feel quite as important, but maybe it does to some of you guys. Here I am doing an absolutely great math problem. He played 74% of his snaps from the slot last year. So, whoops, I almost closed the website. I wasn't supposed to. And yeah, so he can move around. He can obviously move around. His strengths, football intelligence is through the roof. He has range and instincts to play single high safety. He is able to mirror and match patterns from off man. He uses ball hawking angles and explosive bursts to undercut passes. Reads receivers' eyes to cue his head turn downfield. He can diagnose runs and pursue runners with proper leverage and angles. But we will take a peek here at his weaknesses. He does have a small delay in finding first gear at the top of his drop. Could use tighter route squeeze relative to down and distance. Yeah. So that's it. Interesting, he's kind of a, how do we say, kind of a, maybe could be a go big or go home type of player. if you think about it in that way. But I will now throw it off to you guys for our next player.
Well,
So who else is there that
let's go with John Michael Schmitz for now. Center guard from the University of Minnesota, 6'4", 301 pounds. So he's projected to go to the New York Giants at 25 currently, but I just want to throw him out there just because, as we talk about a lot on this show, the Vikings have a very bad interior offensive line problem. Need some help there. I think John Michael Schmitz could be a pretty good addition for us. His strengths are that he's super experienced. He's played more than 2,500 snaps in college. He's nimble for being a thicker center. His vital recovery skill is a part of his game. Accurate finding linebackers at the second level, and quality anchoring ability in pass pro. So it kind of sounds like he's got the whole package. Now his weaknesses is that he doesn't have high caliber explosiveness, and at times gets caught lunging against good pass rush moves. I mean, the lunging, that could definitely get fixed in training camp with any good team. The explosiveness, that's not really too big of a concern for an interior offensive lineman. I mean, a lot of the time, he's going to be making down blocks on one techs or two techs from the tackle position or from the center position. Yeah, I mean, I think that he could be a really good pickup for us, and I really wouldn't be upset if we took John Michael Schmitz.
If you want to go first, you can go first.
Well, I was just saying, in 2021, he played 13 games for 837 snaps, and he allowed 5 QB hurries, no quarterback hits, and not a single sack let up.
Yeah.
I don't have the 2022 stats on that, but that was 2020.
That's perfect, because I actually have it right here. He played 767 offensive snaps in 2022. He allowed just 2 sacks, 1 hit, 5 quarterback hurries. And in the 2 seasons before 22, so 2021, he allowed no sacks in either season. I like the idea. I like JMS as a player a lot. Obviously, as a Minnesotan, I've seen Gopher games, so I've seen him. I know more about him. I like him, but not for the Vikings, because in 2020, he played 422 snaps, 21, 836, 22, 767. All of those snaps are from the center position, though, and to me, the Vikings are pretty set on Garrett Bradbury being their center. So I just don't think he fits with the team, but for a team that is in need of a center, John Michael Schmitz is definitely a very good player. He dominated at the Combine. He did very well at the Pro Day as well for the Gophers. So he's a great player for sure. The team, I just don't think really has a purpose for him here.
What about this Emmanuel Forbes guy from Mississippi State?
Oh, yep. He's another good corner.
Yep, I see him going at this 24. This one mock draft has him at, but he's 6'1", 166, and he runs a 4.35 40. So strength, he's long, lengthy frame with room to add weight. He stays in phase on downfield routes. Shows good route and ability to jump routes with explosiveness.
Did you say he's 166 pounds?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is fairly skinny, but you can easily add weight to with it.
Yep.
Some of the weaknesses will occasionally get handsy on top of the routes. Willing to tackle, but needs to do a better job getting off blocks. And he's not the most aggressive in the runs.
All right. If you're a Vikings fan, you may get triggered at the next thing I'm about to say. I'm here on NFL.com, and I believe it was Lance Zierlein that did it. Where'd it go? Yep. His NFL comp is another former corner from Mississippi State. He's on this helmet, Cam Dantzler. That might make you triggered if you're a Viking fan, considering that the Cam Dantzler experiment didn't go super well here. I like the write-up about him, but I don't know if he'll necessarily be in the first round unless his stock has moved up recently. But a lot of mock drafts tend to have him more in the second, which is kind of a dead spot for the Vikings unless they were to trade back into the second. So Yeah, but seems like a decent player. Definitely, it does. I don't want to say it's alarming, but seeing that Cam Dantzler's comparison, it hasn't worked out super well with Cam Dantzler here. But they are two separate players.
Yeah, I think. Emmanuel Forbes. He's a good player. He's got to put on some weight for sure, but yeah, I mean he's a good player. He could be a good pickup if we really wanted him, but I don't think that he's going to be the right player for us.
You just scrolled past a player that I would like to address here. He goes by the name of Osiris Torrance.
Oh yeah.
His
What a good name.
Interior, it is a good name. Interior offensive lineman from Florida. I almost said Georgia. He actually is not primarily, but he is for the most part a right guard. If they want to replace Ed Ingram, this could be the route they go. In 2020, he played 699 snaps at right guard. In 21, it was 761, but he also played 46 at right tackle. And in 22, all of his snaps were at right guard, and there was 697. So, kind of an interesting look here. He allowed no sacks in either of his past 3 seasons at Florida. He allowed no hits last year and 2020, only allowing 1 in 2021. So definitely really, really interesting idea here. According to PFF, he had a PFF overall grade of 88.0 in 2022. Like I said earlier, it's not easy to get a high PFF grade. 88 is very good. So this is definitely a player the Vikings could be looking at for their interior offensive line.
I think he'd be a good fit for them just because we're struggling at the guard thing, and the sacks that he isn't, like the fact that he isn't allowed sacks is very good for the Vikings, and only one hit through his career and get the pressure off of Cousins or whoever a quarterback may be, and just to get less hits on the quarterback, just in the sense that the hits could cause injuries and just keeps our quarterback safer.
I got something here that the Vikings might like, and you guys might like too. He had a total overall, his score breakdown according to NGS, the next gen stats for the NFL. He had a production score of 82 and a total score of 81. They both rank first among guards in the draft this year. So, obviously he's proven himself. Looks like a very good player.
But if he is ranked first, he may not be there by the 23rd pick, just based on the other team's needs and how guards seem to be kind of hard to come by. And I just don't think he's going to make it 23rd.
That's a good point there.
I'm going to bring up another player, Mr. Linebacker from Arkansas, Drew Sanders. This is a guy that could be a good fit for us. He had 846 defensive snaps this last year. 710 were at linebacker. 108 were on the defensive line. He rushed to the passer 148 times. He had 356 snaps in coverage, 63 tackles this year. The thing that I would say is the worst part about him is that he had 22 missed tackles this year. But what that tells me is that he's got a head of steam. He flies in and probably misses tackles that way. He's a big, strong dude. At a first look, he is 6'4", 235 pounds. He had 11 sacks and 39 pressures a season ago. I mean, I think that he could be a really good player. Mostly projected to go to the Lions, Steelers, and Seahawks, though.
I think he'd be in the 3rd round if they were to take him. He's not up in the first or second. But again, I just mentioned this earlier with the last player we talked about, and I'm going to mention it again. Production score 86, total score 86. They're both first among linebackers in the draft this year. You talked about him being explosive, and sure, right here in the NFL bio that was written up by Lance Zierlein, it says he's long, explosive, rangy, and versatile. He can line up inside linebacker or as an outside rusher, something that Brian Flores would like, being versatile like that.
interrupt you here. He used to be primarily a D line. In 2021, he lined up almost every snap as a D lineman. The 270 snaps at D line and only 14 snaps in other places.
Interesting.
So
that means
he's got the experience as an edge rusher. He's probably got pretty good pass moves in there too. So he might be a puzzle piece that we're looking for.
He would be too small to be an edge rusher, in my opinion, for us, though. He is only 235 pounds, so take it with a grain of salt, but...
I do believe that you could also, you can gain weight. I think if he really tries, the Vikings do draft him, they could put weight onto him to make him a bigger threat at that, so you can think about it that way too.
Could be a good idea.
I think he could be a vital asset to him if we get him and get some weight on him.
Mm-hmm. I know we talked about receivers earlier, and I'm gonna bring us back there just for a minute. Out of Ohio State, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You'll see him sometimes. He's before 23, at 23, after 23. Kind of see him all around. To me, the first thing I noticed when I looked him up, this is a bit of a red flag. He had a PFF grade of just 55.1 in 2022. So we do have to keep that one in mind. That is dangerous if they are looking to take him. Maybe he's not the most consistent player, but he does seem... I don't know a whole lot about him, but from other people,
played very much this year.
Seems to be
3 games.
He does seem to be pretty explosive, though. He played 30. Oh yeah, he only had 40 snaps, so it is very small sample size actually. 34 from the slot, and he had 5 snaps out wide. So he would be a slot player, kind of like Zay Flowers, if they were to take him. But yeah, most of the stats this year we can't really grade anything based off that just because he was hurt. But we do have to keep that in mind if we're drafting him, is that he has a potential history of injury.
But his snaps last year, or his play last year was outstanding. He had 95 receptions for 1,595 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, that's just an outstanding, probably sophomore year, I believe, right? If he's being drafted this year, I would probably guess as a sophomore year or junior year. But either way, that's outstanding for any player. So he has high ceiling, but also a really low floor.
Mm. Also, could be an important weakness here too. It seems that he lacks a burst after the catch, so he doesn't have that explosivity. It's probably not a word, but we're gonna use it. He doesn't have that explosiveness quite like some of the other prospects we've brought up. I think if they were looking for a complement to Justin Jefferson, they'd like it as explosive as possible, because we know JJ is very explosive. So I think that they would look for an explosive guy, maybe after the catch. Even though, again, this is just one thing, but I don't know if they would look in the direction of JSN, especially NFL.com seems to really hint at the fact that he had one very good season, and other than that, he's been kind of mediocre.
What do you guys think about Hendon Hooker from Tennessee?
I love Hendon Hooker. He has one of the most tremendous touchdown to interception stat lines I've ever seen.
27-2.
Well, across 3 years, it is 67-10. So 67 passing touchdowns with only 10 interceptions in 3 years. That's pretty impressive. His worst year was 2020, where he played 8 games and had 1,300 passing yards. Seriously, though, I mean, I understand, yes, he played in a very simple, quick offense, but Hendon Hooker shows the ability to throw the ball very, very, very well and very effectively.
Yeah, you look 69.2 completion percent with 3,135 yards with 9.5 yards per attempt. That is pretty good for me.
The only red flag for me is the 9.5 yards per attempt. I'd like to see at least 15, but I mean, you can't always get what you need. He did have a PFF overall grade of 90.8, though. That is the biggest green flag on this stat sheet, apart from the 3,100 passing yards.
Mm-hmm. Now here, his pro comp could be a red flag, maybe, based on how you look at it, but the player that he's been compared to, we haven't really seen play at all, or we haven't seen a whole lot, small sample size. It's Desmond Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons, who was drafted last year. So just interesting just to think about that one. And also, I believe he tore his ACL last year. Is that correct?
He did tear his
So
ACL
yes,
last
we
year,
do
yeah.
have to keep that in mind. Very significant injury. He did tear his ACL this past season, so he's coming off an injury, which is important. So
He came off injury as a 25-year-old rookie, so he's a little bit older.
mhm.
I think.
I do want to point out that PFF has his age at 25.2.
Now,
Yes.
Why? Just
Probably because he's 25
In
years old and
couple
like
months
a
or-
couple months, yeah.
yeah.
Why don't they just put his birthday on there and then have like the year behind it?
Why don't they
instead
just do
of, like-
years and like months and days or years and days? Sometimes they'll do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knows?
Just why
But
the
yes,
decimal point? That,
25.2.
that seems like the worst way to put someone's age. 25.2. Just like put months or just put their birthday and their years. It's just
Okay, now
Yeah.
that you brought up the 25 years old, this could be bad for some people, but it also could be good if you think about it. He is an older player, so he's gonna have less. If you think about his career, if he pans out, he's probably gonna have less time in the NFL. But that could be a good thing because he's gonna be older if he pans out. When he receives his second contract, he'll be older, so maybe they won't have to pay him quite as much because he won't sustain maybe that success for quite as long. If you see what I'm saying there. So that's kind of a win-lose situation there. His age, in ways, it's definitely not a good thing that he is so old, but in ways, it could potentially be a good thing if he pans out.
One thing I'd really like to see from him in the NFL is trying to keep his eyes downfield. I mean, anytime the pocket collapses, which happened pretty frequently at Tennessee, he just tucked the ball and ran. And yes, he's a very good runner, but I'd like to see him, kind of keep his eyes downfield, move around in the pocket some more. If it collapses, scramble outside, get that ball downfield. He had great receivers this year with Jalen Hyatt and can't remember the other guy's name, but you know what
I'm
talking
blanking
about.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Gosh.
remember the name.
Let us know who it is, because we forgot.
Well, no one's even here. Hopefully.
Let us know in a
In
week.
the comments, yeah.
Yeah.
When you watch it.
Let us know who it is, because we forgot.
If I think long enough, I'll be able to remember who it is.
Yeah.
But he'll have Justin. If he goes to the Vikings here, he'll have Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson throw to too. He's got a deep threat as well as like middle threat, so he may be pretty good for us, especially if he can run too to escape our offensive line collapsing so often.
And I'm really, really hoping that he drops to 87. I doubt that'll happen because he's...
Or maybe they can trade back and get him into like the second round, maybe.
Possibly.
That could be really
Possibly.
possible, yeah.
Another quarterback I want to talk about, though, that I hope drops to 87 is Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has a PFF grade of 74.8. He played in 13 games this year. He had 266 completions, which was 69%, with 3,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He was only throwing 8.2 yards per attempt, though. So, what do you guys think about him?
I think we should rather have you brought up his name now. Who were we just talking about?
Dorian
Tucker.
Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah, Hooker. Henry Hooker. If you look at it, he had like 120 pass rating. He's only got 106, and his interception, like touchdown to interception ratio, is like lower, and his yards per attempt is only 8.2, which is still lower. I mean, take it as you want it there, but I think Hooker would definitely be a better option. But I don't think this guy would necessarily be best for the Vikings right now.
If I was the Vikings GM, I would not look necessarily in Dorian Thompson-Robinson's way. Just the reason that I have it is because, again, he's going to be kind of I think I kind of explained this on last week's. I'm actually probably going to repeat the exact same thing. The farther down the draft you go, the less likely you are to hit on a franchise quarterback. I think that if they're going to look for a franchise quarterback, I'd rather look toward a Hendon Hooker, whether you want to say it or not, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, one of those type of guys, because this isn't always true, but I would just, if they're going to look, and to me right now, they're not looking for a backup or just kind of a young guy, just kind of to be there in the quarterback room. At this point on the team, I think they're kind of looking to find the successor for Kirk Cousins. So I'd rather look in a direction away from Dorian Thompson-Robinson if I was them.
Speaking of Anthony Richardson, he's being mocked at number 3 now after his pro day, which he did excellent at. You know, I remember in one of the first 1 or 2 episodes of this podcast, I was very anti-Anthony Richardson. Now I'm thinking he's good enough that he won't even make it down to 23. He won't even make it anywhere close.
He's not going to make it on the top 10, I bet.
I don't know if he'll make it out of the top 5.
Yeah. He's really interesting because, again, he's not the most prolific passer in the draft, but he's got the tools where it doesn't really matter. He doesn't need to be a prolific passer. Also, this is kind of related, but not directly. Why don't they make you wear pads and a helmet during your pro day? Like, wouldn't it just make more sense? Because when they're playing on the field in a game, they're going to be wearing helmets, they're going to be wearing pads. So why wouldn't you just show? So why, when teams are watching, why wouldn't it just be more accurate? You know.
That is a valid point because those pads can. I don't know how good like the NFL pads are, but I like these pads we had in high school. Those kind of like I don't know hit your shoulder and kind of can like slightly alter how you throw. So I don't know if they have different pads there, but that could really be a factor in everything. It could throw slightly different, which could be off. I agree with what you're saying there. They should have it in pads.
But yeah, that was kind of not related. But in words of Anthony Richardson, I like him a lot. He's just not going to make it anywhere out of the top 5. So it's kind of unrealistic for the Vikings unless they're willing to mortgage everything. I'm in, but I just don't think it'll happen. So
I don't think that happened this year as we have Kirk Cousins to kind of be seen like we're trying to take his position unless we end up trading Kirk Cousins away up for like that higher pick, but I don't see, as long as we have Kirk Cousins, us drafting like a coveted quarterback like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next year after Kirk Cousins' contract is gone, but
I like Caleb Williams for next year's draft if he drops, but
he's probably going to be the 1 pick. But what if they traded right now? I wouldn't necessarily say this is completely a rebuild, but if they were to trade a bunch of guys, including Kirk Cousins, in this way, and then they used the package of players they got for these players, traded up next year and got either Caleb Williams or Drake May out of North Carolina. That could be an interesting idea too. They kind of need to find a bridge quarterback because they're not just going to roll out there with Nick Mullins. So they just kind of find a mid free agency, just kind of to hold down the fort for a season, and then they'd go up. I don't think that would happen, but it's just interesting to think about.
Completely.
Anyone else got anything to share, or otherwise we can
move on.
Potentially start moving on.
Yeah, I think we should start moving on.
We're gonna move on.
I talked about all the prospects I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, if there's anything important I forgot, maybe we can do it in an upcoming one. But at least in the ones in my mind, I think that we summed it up pretty well there.
Are we gonna go with the 3rd pick or third round pick?
We kind of already did.
Well, we kind of got both. So with that being said, we are now going to move into our second and final segment that we have. Me and Sam here are going to be facing off in a football knowledge battle. Big Lou here has prepared some stuff. We are going to be asking yes or no questions. I believe we get 10 total, you said, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we're each going to get 5 questions, and all questions we ask have to be in a yes or no format, so we can't just say, what position does he play? We have to say, does this player play on offense? And he's going to reply with yes or no, or whatever.
And we can't ask exactly, are they a quarterback? Are they a receiver?
Well,
well
you could, but the chance
that kind of takes the
right.
that kind of takes the fun out, though. So this is also our first time doing it. We're kind of going to figure it out as we go, but I think,
we will probably more than likely change the rules on the fly here, so we'll figure that out as we go.
If you want a notebook, paper, you want one?
We kind of did a trial run of it, more notable from other teams, but for right now, we're just going to keep it Vikings.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so with that being said, you want to start us off with our first question?
You guys going to play rock, paper, scissors?
All right, that's just like how it went in our trial run we had earlier.
Okay. So So you said it's former and current.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are that's the category that I chose these players from.
Okay.
Actually, I'll just wait to ask this till it's my turn.
Is this player an offensive skill player?
Yes.
Here, let's do this. Is there any better way I can write? I'll just use my notebook.
Were you going to keep track of the questions? Yeah. I don't have paper for that, but
Okay. So
I can keep track of
I can
questions asked.
Yeah. Joel.
okay. Does this player currently play for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yes.
And it's just going to be first one of us to guess who it is. So we don't have to like guess on our turn. If we figure it out, we can just throw out the answer.
And you get one, like, let's say Joel guesses it. He cannot guess again until Sam gets his guess.
Oh, that's an interesting one there.
Okay.
And I will not, like, say yes or no until they say, yes, this is my official guess.
Mm-hmm.
How many yards from scrimmage did this player have this season?
It's not a yes or no question.
Sorry.
Yes.
Did this
You
player
can do you can
You
do
can do
like
over
or
did they
under.
have-
did this player
Yeah.
have more than 1,000 yards from scrimmage this season?
No.
I think it doesn't. I think from now on it doesn't have to be a yes or no, just as long as it's a or B.
I could say like an
If it's-
over or under.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
can work.
Okay.
I mean, you can kind of question or say that in a yes or no format. Just may simplify it a little bit for.
Was this player drafted within the past 2 seasons? So were they drafted in 21 or 22?
No. Your question, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here.
Well, he is thinking we're kind of gonna do like a point system here. So, if let's say if Joel gets it, he will get a point for this. Sam he'll get a point. But if I stump them within 10 questions and they don't get it, I get a point for that, and we'll kind of keep a competition throughout this.
Has this player recently had a contract change?
Yes.
And I guess I should probably, can I clarify the recently?
Defines.
Depends on what.
Depends on the clarification.
Okay, can I clarify the timeline for what recently is?
Yes.
Is it like this off season?
Like in the last 3 months, has this person's contract changed?
Oh, last 3 months?
Yeah.
No, not the last 3 months.
Interesting one there.
I think I know who it is.
I'll just say this one anyways. Has this player ever played for a team that was not the Vikings?
Yes.
I'm almost certain I know who this is. Can I guess?
You can guess.
Is it TJ Hawkinson?
It is.
I thought it might be.
there we go.
Thought it might be. I was gonna ask one of my questions was gonna be, do they play in the Big Ten? He went to Iowa.
That's Big 12.
No, Iowa's in the Big Ten.
Oh, when I looked it
Iowa's
up
Big
earlier, it was Big 12.
Nope, that's Iowa State.
Their capital.
Oh.
That was when, yeah. If you were gonna say no, then I was gonna say okay. Then it's probably TJ. All right. So
So we have 2 more, correct?
Yes, I
Okay.
have created 3 for us.
all right. So I'll start off this time since he did last time.
Yeah.
Does this player play on the offensive side of the ball?
No. I hope I have enough stats on this guy. This one I quickly made this morning, so hopefully I have enough stats.
Did this player record any interceptions in 2022?
You know, I actually will have to. No, we did not.
Let's think here. Did this player? I'll do the same one I did last time. Was this player drafted within the past 2 seasons?
No.
Did this player record any sacks in 2022?
Yes.
Has this? This is the second time in a row I'm going to ask the same question I did last time. Has this player played on any teams other than Minnesota?
I do not believe so, but I can.
You should.
You should
Double
verify.
You
that.
should definitely
To make
verify
sure.
that.
That could matter. That could be very important. To
Yeah.
this.
No, he is not.
Is this player's jersey number above 90?
Yes.
That narrows us down.
I think I know who it is.
Would you like to guess?
Oh, that's one of my questions is that I get to guess, right? So now it's
I
Joel's
think
turn.
we said we could guess whenever.
Can we?
Can we?
I don't
If
think
you
we
guys,
said so.
if you
I
guys
also
want
have
it,
an idea, but I can't guarantee.
so we should do like if it's your question, you get first dibs on.
Oh, you get first dibs on the guess. If
Yes,
it's your turn.
If it's your turn.
Alright.
So do you want to guess?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this player Daniil Hunter?
It is.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
thought it was, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So that moves us into our third and final player. We'll probably bring this segment back next week too. We'll see. We'll see. We'll figure it out here. It will not always be, I don't know if you explained, but it won't always be current Viking players. It could be past players. It could be former Viking players that are current players on other teams now. Stuff like that. We'll get more expansive as time goes on here. But Sam can start us off again now.
Okay. Is this player an offensive skill player?
No.
Is this player's jersey number over the number 50?
No.
Did this player record any interceptions in the 2022 season?
No.
Has this player played on a team other than Minnesota?
No.
Has this player been drafted in the past 3 seasons, so since 2020?
I gotta double check one thing. I do not think. No,
So this person was drafted before 2020?
I never said that.
Okay.
Wait, what?
I think I might get where you're
Wait,
going. with that one.
wait. I said, was this person drafted since 2020? You said.
I think I get the
no.
drift here.
You also said this person was not drafted before 2020.
You know,
I think I see where this
I
is
think
going.
I get it.
I might have given it away.
Is this player undrafted?
Yes.
Okay.
From what I'm seeing, yes, I do not find things.
Okay, that was what I figured. That's where I figured this was gonna go.
That's the 6th question, correct?
I don't want to ask a question that will give it away. because I think I have an idea who it is if it's current and former Vikings players. But I don't know.
This one's
I have an idea.
This one's an interesting.
I have an idea of a player, and it's probably not the same person you're thinking of. I might know who it is. Everything I'm thinking of this player matches into the.
Is this player a current Vikings player?
Yes.
Good. Well, obviously they are. I asked
shoot,
earlier
you
if
asked
they
that
were only a
earlier.
Minnesota player, but whatever.
Oh shoot!
Uh,
didn't look at that.
okay, I think I got this
Fun
one.
of the segment.
I got this especially because of your wording that you had earlier when you said this is kind of an interesting one and you thought of it and it was hard to find much about them. Is this person the punter Ryan Wright?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, Joel.
I thought that as soon as you said the undrafted, that's what made me think he was undrafted.
I couldn't find anything out. I didn't think he was.
This
and
was
I
his
should-
rookie season, but he was not drafted. So
Yes.
yeah, he did kind of put you in a tough spot with that one.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was our 3 people. We'll follow it up again maybe next week. We'll see. With another one of this, we'll have predictions again. Text us if you want to be on a future predictions. Can't guarantee it'll be the April 16th one, but hopefully we can have you on sometime in the future. Text our number. You can find it around the social media pages if you want to find it. Otherwise, thanks for watching.